Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Creators Lounge podcast. I'm your host, Ben Jaye. And as always, we have another super cool episode to bring to you yet again today. So I've known this guy for a few months. I think it's been a few months already, maybe a year. I'm not for sure how long it's actually been. Met him through a mutual friend. And so it's super cool to finally sit down with him, dig into his music, his style, his approach, and everything. I cannot wait to jump into it. So, all right, my dude, give these people the introduction. What is your name? Where are you from? What do you do?
My name is Onel, but my music name is Assonance. I'm from Staten Island, New York, and my music basically it revolves around how I feel. It pretty much there's no, limit to what I make. It's basically like a repetition of my ideas and thoughts and whatever, you know.
Oh man, I love that already. So we have a lot to talk about today. There's so much to dig into, and you kind of gave us the precursor already. Your music is very, very diverse. Before we go into the sound and the stylistics of everything, the name. Before the recording, you and me were talking about the name. I was saying how hard it is for me to say it in real life. How did you choose the name Assonance? How did you choose that name?
Yeah, so I think like when I was in a freshman year of high school or some shit like that, I was making a lot of lo-fi music and I wanted to create some like edgy, you know, they got those, sad boys or some crap like that. So my original name was Anime Sucks. Haha, funny. So,
that's like the name of a legend right there.
Yeah, that didn't work out too well because in the end I became a huge weeb. So yeah, but
hey, you become what is that old quote? The longer you look into the abyss looks back at you. You know, the longer you hate anime, the deeper you get into it. Okay, so you had Anime Sucks as your name, and then what inspired the name change next? Like, how did you choose that one?
So what happened was, I don't know if you know Business Casual, the label Business Casual.
Of course.
So, yeah, so I sent my first album to Business Casual, and they were like, "You can't use Anime Sucks as your name." So,
yeah, for obvious reasons.
Obvious reasons, yeah. So then I was like, "Shit, what do I do?" Then I was like, "Oh wait, assonance," because like assonance is technically it's like the repetition of like vowel sounds, I think, or something like that. And vaporwave is essentially, because at that time I made vaporwave, right? So vaporwave is essentially looping the same thing over and over again. Like that's the very, very, let's say, stereotypical definition of that genre, right? So it's like, oh, that fits, I guess. So that's how that name came out to be.
That's wild, man. That's wild. That's super interesting. Yeah, it's funny, but like that's a real thing. Like as far as releasing music and choosing names, like it can be a very political process. You know, as far as like if there's another person who has the same name, if there's a product or item that has the same name, you know, the implications of your name. Like there's actually some thought that has to go into how we choose our artist names.
That actually happened to me. There's another guy called Assonance.
No kidding. Okay. All right.
Yeah, there's another one. So I messaged him. I think, like I was distributing my music onto stores and stuff. I messaged him letting him know that, hey, I also make music, but it won't let me choose my own channel. He was actually pretty cool about it. It's like, yeah, it's okay. You can. He said he doesn't really make money off of it. So
right.
It was okay with it. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's cool. Good on you for reaching out to him, you know, and making that kind of communication right there, because we see it happen a lot, even like in mainstream music as well. I remember the artist. We talked about vaporwave already, Future Funk, but Saint Pepsi, you probably are familiar with him. You know,
Saint Pepsi,
and he had to change his name because of Pepsi. You know, it's already like a brand. Exactly, and so that was a big issue for his fans and himself. You know, being forced to change that and everything. It's a pretty political process. Anyway, back to the origin story of how you and me met. I have a buddy named Azra, and he was on the show before, and I was listening to some of his music. You and him did a collaboration, and that song was called Once Again, and the minute I heard that song, I was like, let's go. I was like, this is a banger right here. I just like kept playing it over and over again that night. A funny backstory on that song, actually. The first night I heard it, I couldn't stop listening to it, so I kept playing it like throughout the night. The problem was, I was up at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. playing the song, had my speakers turned on, windows open. As I'm listening to it, suddenly someone stomps up the stairs outside my apartment and starts banging on the door. And I was like, oh snap! I was like, hey, turn this down. Turn the music down. The next day, my boss comes to me because like she pays for my apartment. It's like the part of the contract,
right.
and she's like, hey, the neighbors were complaining about the music yesterday. And I was like, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. You don't understand. It's a great song. I had to play it out loud.
That means a lot. That means a lot.
That's what happened, man. True story. I'm not even joking with you on that. So it was such a cool song. I jumped into your profile, gave you a follow. We started going back and forth, liking everything. But
yeah.
One of the things that's most interesting about your music, as I was listening through it, was how diverse it is. You have gone everywhere with your music.
Yeah.
How would you describe your approach to making music?
I guess it's kind of like whatever I like listening to at the moment. I take some of those styles and put my own twist on it, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, this recent album that I'm working on, it's called American Agony,
Mm-hmm.
and basically it's taking a lot of inspirations from weirdly Drain Gang out of all places. I don't know why, but Drain Gang and a bit of Vaporwave. But like, it's more of a. I gave a little, I guess, taste of what I was trying to attempt with that project
Mm-hmm.
through a song called "Lonely Fans."
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it's kind of like a orchestral collage version of Vaporwave, if that makes sense. Not specifically sampling 80s stuff, more like sampling stuff from all different eras.
Right.
So yeah.
Man, that's so cool. No, it's a great way to go about making music because, like, all art is inspired by something, right? Whether it's a visual,
True,
or
yeah.
sound, or person. And so,
Yeah.
we are very much influenced by the stuff we listen to, by our environment, stuff like that. It's only obvious that it would come out through the music that we make. So it's cool to see you doing it so originally and so artistically. Like you said, you take inspiration from the stuff you're listening to, but whenever I listen to it, I just hear something totally new. Even if I recognize the sample or something that was like the stems of the project, like it's totally new and original whenever I hear it. Now, on SoundCloud, you have tagged your music as future funk, ambient, PC music, future bass, vaporwave, a lot of different tags on the genres and everything. I'm curious, how did you add all of those styles of music into your playlist, into like your listening arsenal, if you will? Like, how did you bring all those sounds into your tastes?
I guess it's more along the lines of just my musical evolution, because at first I started off with obviously like my anime thing, so it was like lo-fi music.
Yeah.
And then I moved on to more complex things, then I moved on to vaporwave, and then after that I started making more original stuff. And then I believe in like maybe 2016, 2017, I discovered PC music, which is of course hyperpop, run by AJ Cook, and I believe the first PC music song I heard was by Easy Fun. I think it was Blink, or was it Monopoly? I'm not so sure. But Easy Fun was the person who dragged me in. And that's when I started experimenting with the FM synthesis, which is basically what FM synthesis is. It's taking a sine wave, two sine waves, and basically modulating, well, not really sine waves. It's like they take waveforms, like it can be two different waveforms to whatever, right? And then in those waveforms, if you go in a microscopic level, there's tiny sine waves in between those waveforms.
Right.
What it does is they modulate those sine waves. So when you modulate those sine waves, it creates very unique sounds, unique textures, and stuff like that. And that's essentially what the 80s is. It's just FM synthesis. So yeah, and to me, hyperpop is like just the modernization on 80s synthesis in a way. So I was really, really inspired by that type of stuff. And then recently, of course, Drain Gang came along, and I was like, I discovered Blade. What's weird is that I never really liked emo raps, but then when I heard Blade, like Be Nice to Me by Blade, oh my god, it's like connected. Everything was like, man, this hits so hard. And yeah, and then recently there's a glitchcore scene going on in SoundCloud, and I've been pretty inspired by that. And I run a label now called Euphonium, so a lot of the artists there make a lot of breakcore, which is taking almond breaks and drum samples, basically speeding them up and throwing rave stabs and stuff like that over that. And I've been really inspired by rave music and breakcore and all that stuff. So yeah, it's I guess it's basically whatever catches my ear. That's kind of I categorize myself under. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's super cool to hear you talk about all this stuff. PC music for me it was super exciting for me when I first heard about PC music. That was probably, I want to say, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. When I first heard like the first PC songs and everything, it's super exciting. That scene is so unique. Their approach to music, like you broke down, you gave like the technical definition. Like it's just like whenever you hear it, like you know it's different, and it was so exciting to hear something that unique and that original.
You can't define PC music. It's like almost impossible.
Well, and that's what I loved about it so much is that like for a lot of music, it becomes very formulaic. Like you know exactly how it's gonna play out, the tempo and the measures and everything. PC music was totally out of bounds. They would, they just do whatever they want to do, whether it sounds harmonic or disharmonic or whatever. Like they're not afraid to do what they want to do with the sound, and that was something that was really drew me into it. It's kind of a hard question to answer, so you might not have a response to it. Why do you think you're so open to different sounds and styles of music? PC music, breakbeat, vaporwave, lo-fi, right? Like these genres really don't have something that brings them all together. They're very different in the ways they're made and they sound. What do you think makes you so open to the different styles and genres that you're into?
I think it's mostly because I was I was a scene kid in like 2012, so
who wasn't?
So like who wasn't? So like I was exposed to like really wacky wild shit like crunkcore, that crunkcore. Like basically it's literal people just screaming like in autotune, so like autotune over like a house beat or something.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, and then a lot of my early days were spent browsing on the internet, and on chat rooms, surfing like that. I don't look like it. I look like a pretty standard guy, but I don't know.
Artistically, there's something different.
Yeah, I guess. Like when people are like, "Oh, you know this? How do you know this? You don't look like you know this." I'm like, I just know it. Like, so.
That's awesome, and that's another thing I wanted to follow you up on actually as well. How do you find all these different sounds and styles and aesthetics and everything? Is it mostly through SoundCloud? Is it through like web forums and Reddit and stuff like that as well, or?
Well, I say in the early days it was through the 4chan music board, and then of course I left 4chan because God, that place is bad. And then it was through the YouTube algorithm. That's how I discovered Vaporwave. Saint Pepsi, Cherry Coke, I think it was. That's how I discovered Vaporwave.
Gotcha.
All the other, and then like PC music, I feel like Sophie popped in my algorithm, and Easy Fun as well.
Of course.
They all popped in my algorithm.
Yep.
I think it's mostly because a lot of Vaporwave artists, I guess the artists who make the music, like the influential people, some of them actually sample from PC music. So then when you listen to a song that has been sampled by sampled by Vaporwave, the algorithm probably automatically detects that and recommends you that song. I think that's how it works.
Yeah. It's insane, like how much the algorithms influence our lives, because there's like you said, like crazy. YouTube. I've talked to a lot of people and they've all said, YouTube is how I found this, YouTube is how I found that, and that's all ran by an algorithm that's influencing us and giving us different, information and media to consume. And so it's a little bit interesting because we really are living in like the cyber tech future, that we used to talk about like in the 90s, early 2000s. I wanted to ask you.
It's not all like. Oh my bad.
No, go ahead. It's not all.
No, I was gonna say, except it's not like all wacky and crap with like the box computers and all that shit.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, because we're talking about all these different influences and everything, is it overwhelming or is it comforting to have so many styles through it to express yourself? Because I mean, that could easily be, it could be overwhelming and it'd be like, okay, do I want to make PC music, breakbeat, vaporwave, what do I want to make today? Or it could be comforting because you never are at a loss for what to make. You always have something to choose. Where do you fall in that spectrum?
I'm kind of leaning towards overwhelming, honestly, because you don't have a specific sound.
Yeah.
Kind of like, so you're kind of like, sometimes it's like, I guess it's good because sometimes I fuse two genres together in a way. I have made songs that fuse breakbeat and like hexed music together. Hex is basically bit crushed, extremely bit crushed music, and it works. I guess it's kind of like cooking, like you add shit and see what works.
Yep.
A weird way.
Yep.
So that's essentially what it is. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you know what, the saying, every 100 FLPs equals like one good song.
That is so true. That is literally so true. I wonder. I'd be scared to count how many FLPs I have sitting on my computer. I'm sure it's over 500 or over 1,000. So
yeah, it's really bad.
It's really bad. No, but it's an interesting problem to have, because you have people on one end of the spectrum who feel the need to be super specific with their genre to the point that they feel trapped in that genre. And then you have people like you and me who have casted such a wide net of styles and music that it's hard for us to be specific. Every comeback's a different style and approach, and we feel like we're missing opportunities because of that. There's like no middle ground for people, basically. It's always too narrow or too wide. But whenever you do go into making a song, like, how much is genre important to you? Are you thinking of what genre, what style you want to make? Or are you just like jumping in and saying, well, I want to use this sample, or I want to use this riff?
It's sort of the latter, because it's kind of like I just write melodies by ear, or like I hum it out, or I just play something on my guitar, and I just screw with it, like I add effects and whatever, chop it up, It's basically what happens along the way, and then what's I guess the product of it. It becomes then only after, I guess, like when you finish it all up and all that stuff, I sort of define what the genre is and try and, I guess, label it down. I guess that's how it works. Yeah.
No, I mean it's the same for me as well, man. Like, I don't really think about what genre I'm making. It kind of just, I make what I want to make, and then I call it something at the end, and like, okay, well, I didn't want to, but this turned out to be like drum and bass meets blah, blah, blah. Or, it came out to be hyperpop, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, it's so freeing, though. For me, it's so freeing to make music without, any kind of barrier like that. Because I feel...
Me too, honestly, yeah.
Yeah, because whenever you have... some sort of regulations and stuff to follow, like, I feel like you kind of limit like what's going to happen with the track, whereas if you don't have any kind of rules, you can make anything, especially something new that we haven't heard before. And to me, like, that's exciting,
Yeah, but then again, I feel like it could also be a bit detrimental, because say like you're going one specific route, I feel like you have to make your fan base clear that you make different musical genres on your first album or something,
Okay.
Because it could alienate your fan base if you keep making the same stuff over and over again, because that's what they follow you for, right?
Right.
And then suddenly you do a 180 and you make like drum and bass or something.
Yeah, right.
From future funk to like nightcore or some shit like that. So.
Right.
Yeah,
well, I guess communication's always important, isn't it?
True. Yeah, of course.
Before, I wanted to ask you about like your music making process. You talked about it a little bit already. Before we go deeper on that, real quick, if I can ask, and it's not super important, how much of your music is sampling, and how much of it is like original creation per se?
Most of the time it's original.
Sure.
The sampling part is I guess it's only vaporwave. Even vaporwave, I don't really sample anymore. I pretty just sample myself, honestly.
Wow.
Because I kind of like, I just feel bad, like I just feel like, man, like these four, like say a band or something. I don't know, the Chai Lights. These brothers paid a huge ass studio to like record tubas and Yamaha GX7s, and I'm just out here taking it and chopping it up. So I kind of feel bad, but I try, when I sample, I try making it as unrecognizable as possible. I guess something along the lines of, let's say, Rode Rosu or like EV.exi, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and most of my stuff is original, though. It's kind of funny, though, because when people ask me when is the sample, 'cause I made a song recently called The Isolated Again I See.
Right.
It's actually completely original.
It was like, what's the sample? Let us know the sample, bro.
Yeah. So the guy thought that was pretty funny. Right?
That is hilarious, dude. That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Super, super funny. Well, it's cool, though. I mean, like, yeah, like you said, like, I don't know. It's an interesting conversation about sampling. I want to get into it a little bit later on. So we'll bring that up later on. But I do feel like sampling is when done properly, is more of keeping the legacy alive. Right, because
I agree with that.
There's a lot of like musicians and artists that like I wouldn't know unless I had heard it sampled from another person or sampled online.
Like, people say Young Bass lazy and shit, and I agree. He's a lazy man. But if it weren't,
he might agree with that.
If it weren't for Bay One, I think, or something. I don't know what that album was, but I would have not discovered that many Japanese city pop artists. I wouldn't have known what city pop is.
Yep.
So, yeah, like, for example, even Night Tempo, remastering Plastic Love. And, well, it's not really remastering, but it's more like, remastering Plastic Love. And like, I saw in an interview actually, Maria Takuchi and Tatsuro Yamashita actually went on Japanese news, and they thanked Night Tempo for keeping their music alive. They did, yes.
Snap! That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. It was so big on the internet, man. Like, because he did that, like, so many people will open up to the song, got to know about the song. It was huge.
True. Yeah. And also, I believe it's 1986 Omega Tribe. Yeah, 1986 Omega Tribe.
Right.
Night Tempo actually did an official collaboration with them because, it's crazy. Yeah.
That is so cool.
And also, like, Vantage. You know Vantage?
Of course, I love Vantage. Dude, I know every single artist you're dropping right now. I love to hear you say these names because I'm like, oh yeah, he knows where it's at. Okay, so Vantage, what did Vantage do?
Vantage actually got signed by Warner, I believe, because
no kidding.
He got signed by Warner, and it's crazy that Future Funk it's now being appreciated like this. It started as some little.
Respected. I'm so glad it is, though. I'm so glad it is because, like, those artists have put so much work into their craft, and a lot of people, you know, like you said, like they say, like they're lazy or they're just stealing music or whatever. But like, no, there's something different about it. They're opening it up to a new audience of people. They're expressing themselves with their skills and talents. I think that we're so judgmental about how we do stuff that we overlook people's skills and abilities. Not everybody can chop a sample and make it danceable, you know, but people like conscious thoughts can. Yeah,
it's kind of like I'm gonna compare this to food again. It's kind of like food competitors. You know, McDonald's makes a burger, and then like Burger King makes basically a burger, but they're just like, I don't know, lettuce or something, and it's the same exact thing. It's just people like it, you know. Like,
right, man. Right.
You don't need to be so try hard over it. I don't know. It's like
I mean, especially with art, because art is so subjective. You know, like people will love this thing and hate this thing, and then vice versa. People are gonna love this thing and hate this thing. You know, it comes down to personal preference and taste. You know, I think that especially for music, like, it's not hurting anyone. As long as it's not hurting anyone, I'm not sure, you know, if it can or not. But like, you know, then
I mean, like,
if we're having a good time, like, support the arts. You know, support people expressing themselves. Like, it's such a good thing to see people making music, talking about music, sharing music. You know, whether it's sampled or it's glitched up or it's something you would never listen to. Like, it's just self-expression. It's so cool to see people doing that, in my opinion.
For sure, yeah. Totally agree.
You've sampled so many different genres. Like you talked about, you know, Japanese city pop. You've done 80s music, punk rock. I heard a Jason Derulo sample, I think, in your music. So many different samples in your music as I was going through. I was like, is this act? I was like, it is. It's that song. And that was really cool to hear. Is it hard to sample all these different genres and styles of music? Is it hard to make them work together?
It's not really that hard for me, honestly. I don't mean to come off as braggadocious.
Hours of practice, my man. Hours of practice, I'm sure.
It's like, I guess it's kind of like by ear. Like, oh, wait, that's the same key. This is in the same key. It might work. You know, you smash them together and see what happens, pretty much.
So just try it out and see what happens with it.
Yep, that's what I do.
Super cool. And then, I mean, since we're talking about it already, and I want to know, what draws you to sampling specifically? Like you said, some people could do it just because they're lazy. It might be because people appreciate the sound. For you yourself, like, what draws you to sampling specifically?
Sampling is honestly more of a personal thing for me because in my music I try expressing my emotions a lot.
Right.
So I try to sample music that has a lot of relevance to me or importance to me. For example, let me give a song, Romance, like that song as an example. So I sampled Tatsuro Yamashita's guitar part, intro bit, and then Sparkle, I believe.
Yep.
Because Sparkle was the first city pop song that I have ever been introduced to. So I wanted to pay homage to that guy. So that's pretty much why I sampled that. And let's go back to Jason Derulo. So I was feeling pretty nostalgic that day, so I was like, man, I like this song.
Yeah.
Why not?
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
No,
it's
really...
just it's just a fun, shitty 2010 pop song.
Yeah, exactly. No, but like, you know, nostalgia, like you said, like nostalgia is like so big for people, and it's an underrated feeling, an underrated emotion. But the arts are a perfect way to capture that feeling of nostalgia, you know, and bring it back to life and bring people back to a certain place in time, or even a place they've never been before, which is what happened with future funk and city pop. Is that like a lot of people have never lived in that era, but they're like, I feel like I've been there before, you know. So the nostalgia is powerful, and it's really cool to do that. Speaking along those same lines about, you know, paying homage to the people that inspired you, you know, you wanting to share your spin on their work and everything, where do you normally get inspiration for your art, for your music?
Oh, so my inspirations, let's see.
Because you mentioned like emotions already, like how you feel and all that kind of stuff as well. You could go deeper into that if you want to, or maybe there's something else that you get inspiration from as well. I'm not sure.
Mostly, it's like in my emotions and stuff like that. Also, it's like various artists that I like. For example, we were having a convo earlier about folk.
Yep.
So
I'm so glad we're talking about this now.
Yeah. So I've been inspired by like Don Ross, open tunings. I really love playing in open tunings. It depends on my mood, really. Recently, I guess due to Corona, I have a lot of pent up stress and shit, so I want to like vent it out. So I feel like folk music, emo music, best way of, I guess, in a cheesiest way possible, venting it out. You know? So yeah, it depends pretty much on how I feel. You know, if I'm happy, I make happy stuff. If I'm sad, I make melodramatic stuff.
Yeah.
If I have a view that I guess many people disagree with. Not really disagree with, but like,
maybe it's
for
not
example,
a
my
popular
song.
Opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, for example, my song "Lonely Fans." It was basically my view on how I personally dislike an industry where people prey on other people's anxieties and stuff like that. Basically, they created a market on like mental illness, capitalizing on anxiety.
I see.
And selling fabricated relationships. So I just want to like just release that song because I was just thinking about it a lot, and I just wanted to get it out.
Oh, that's intriguing, man. It's really intriguing. It's cool because like music is meant to send a message, right? Whether it's an emotion or a political message or a viewpoint or something. So it's cool that you are able to do that with your music and with your sound because it's powerful. You know,
Thank you.
You know, I'm not sure that everyone can do it, or I'm not sure everyone feels brave enough to do it. You know, but it's cool.
It's actually it's a pretty risky thing to do because you have to do it in a very mature and honest way. Because if not, it could come off as disingenuous, and you wouldn't want that. So.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, and I think that, you know, like you said, like the honesty is important as well because, you know, you're going to look back at this stuff, you know, 5-10 years later and you may not be as proud as it then, but if you're honest with it, you can at least respect your emotion for that point in time where you were. So yeah, I think you said responsible and honest is key for any kind of art creation. You know, otherwise you come off as fake or facetious or whatever. So that is super cool though. I had a follow-up question. I think it slipped my mind though. Yeah, no. That's what it was about the emotions. You know, we keep talking about your emotions in relation to your music, and that's not surprising, right? Because I think a lot of us want to express ourselves through music, like obviously, because you know you play music to show an emotion or to cause an emotion. But something that I have heard a lot of people talk about these days is talk about managing their emotions or controlling their emotions through their artistic process. I wanted to ask you maybe one or two questions in that same vein. First of all, do you feel like you have a lot of emotional stability in your life? It's kind of a strange question, but do you feel like you're pretty emotionally stable, or is it something that you kind of struggle with?
I feel like I'm pretty emotionally stable, mostly because of music. So, you know, like for example, like yesterday, I had a long study session for chem because I'm in college. So gotta study chem and stuff. So I was like, man, I need to make some music, man. I need to relieve some stress. So it's a good stress reliever, you know. You just vent a bit. It's like, I guess it's like Bob Ross. Bob Ross.
Yeah.
Painting stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So,
No, it's totally true. It's totally true, and it's cool that it helps you as well, right? A lot of people don't have that kind of outlet or don't allow themselves to have that kind of outlet, you know, but for us as musicians to be able to make a song that gets that emotion out, it can help us to deal with it and to manage it better. It's really cool that you put the time in to stay disciplined and also to make space for it as well. You know, I think that for mental health in general, you have to make time for mental health. You know, you have to make time for the solutions and the practices you have that help you to manage it. And it's so easy to get caught up in studies or in your work or in your turmoil and to not make time for the solutions, the cures, like making music or painting or exercising, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is mental health big on your radar? Do you think about that a lot? Do you put a lot of time into taking care of your mental health, or is it kind of more of a back burner thing for you?
Well, I do have ADHD, but it's kind of like I've got it under control because I've gone through therapy and stuff when I was a kid through co-ed, special needs, and during elementary school. But then slowly, through like various controlling methods, like tapping or something, it goes away. You know, you get it under control. But I'm sure that many other people don't have that sort of thing. So essentially, music to them must be definitely a very important part to their mental stability.
Right.
For sure. Yeah.
That's cool, man. That's really cool. It's always good to hear people, you know, getting a hold of their mental struggles and their mental health difficulties. So it's good on you for putting the time and the effort in to get that under control and make it work for you, not against you. Would you say that your ADHD has helped your artistic process in any way?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Let's go there for a minute if it's okay. Go ahead.
Honestly, if it weren't for ADHD, I wouldn't be listening to like rave music and shit. So,
It's so true. It's so true, man.
Like I'm out here like blasting breakcore, like freaking sped up almond breaks, and my dad is like, "Well, why are you listening to this?"
You're like, because the ADHD, Dad. I have to. It's an innate drive.
Honestly, if it weren't for my ADHD, I probably wouldn't have branched out to a lot of musical endeavors, to be honest. Yeah.
So. No, I think you're absolutely completely right on that, man. You know, that when you have that ADHD, you're always, you know, looking for something new, looking for something interesting, and that can lead you to some pretty cool places, you know, whether it's sounds or aesthetics or whatever it may be. You talked already about making music based off your emotions. Are there certain themes that you like to come back to in your music, or certain themes you like to express with your music? Or is it completely dependent on like your mood at the time?
Sometimes I like coming back to I have a lot of music about how my father, he sacrificed a lot for my life personally, so I always feel in debt to him. So I make a lot of stuff basically giving him kudos and thanks for all the stuff he's done for me.
Wow.
And also, like my recent song is literally called Father's Sacrifice.
It is,
so,
right.
Yeah. So and I guess love is a thing. I don't know. Love is a good thing to write about sometimes. And what else? Leaving high school. Oh my god. I know it sounds like the most cheesiest shit.
No, man, no. That's a transitional thing right there. It's a transitional thing. Big impact.
Cheesiest grilled cheese thing that I've ever said. But yeah, it's like high school. It's very tough for me because this year was actually my senior year,
right.
And it happened, of course, during Corona. Everything got canceled. My prom, my trip. Basically, I couldn't say goodbye to a few of my close buddies since elementary school.
Yeah.
So I've been writing a lot of stuff about that. Yeah, that was my EP. It was mostly emotions. It was called Corona Jams because it's literally what I made during Corona. So I just might as well just release it. So it's basically a bunch of stuff that I inspired by those feelings or whatever.
Sure, man. Sure. Wow, that's crazy. But no, it's so true, and it's gonna be something that we all look back and I think remember because everyone's lives have been turned upside down by the pandemic. You know, there's so many plans and life choices that got shifted.
It's crazy.
It's crazy, man. It's affected every part of our lives, you know, and so it's cool that you got to put out a piece of music, a body of work though at that time, because I think it's something that can kind of put an artistic spin on it, you know, and I guess hopefully it helped you to deal with those emotions and stuff as well. So, which is definitely good. How do you feel? How do you feel these days though? Because like the pandemic is still ongoing. Is it been a stressor for you, or how have you dealt with it?
Honestly, I've become normalized to it. I've gotten used to it. But what saddens me is, see, I live in New York,
right?
So I have to commute to the city. So the other day I had to pick up my ID for college, so I commuted to the city. It's like a ghost town, man. Like the tourism, it's gone. It's like dead. It's crazy. Because like, I'm telling you the truth when I say this. There was no traffic on the roads in New York City. Like, how can you picture that? That's
you
insane.
Can't, you can't. That is it's definitively crazy. Impossible. But I know exactly what you mean, because it's the same thing here in South Korea. I live in Seoul, which is like one of the biggest cities in the world,
Seoul.
you know. And whenever our lockdown was at its worst, like you're right, like it was empty. It was like a very, very few people on the subway, outside, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So I know exactly what you're talking about from firsthand experience. But yeah, like he's saying though, for everybody in the audience, like you can't really imagine how weird it was to be in these major cities, New York City or Seoul, and to have it be a ghost town, because it's kind of like
it's crazy.
It's weird.
It's like when I was taking a 6 train, which is it's an uptown train. Usually it's salmon packed because it goes through Grand Central, Central,
yeah,
Battery Park, all those main places, right? It wasn't even salmon packed. Like it was packed, but it was not salmon packed.
Like, okay, something's wrong.
Something's wrong here. Yeah.
Oh man, that is wild. That is wild. I want to talk also, we've talked a lot about your music already. I wanted to ask about your art aesthetics, because your art aesthetics are very unique as well. Where do you draw inspiration from for your art styles and aesthetics that you've embraced for your releases?
I'd say my art aesthetics mostly recently my I guess my logo was done by a friend of mine. His name is Prehistoric Monolith. He's also tech. We run a label together, Euphonium. So a lot of my art aesthetics come from that. I guess grimy, because our label has that grimy feel to it. Grimy, emo-ish feel. I know it's emo again, but yeah. But
somehow emo never dies. That's the thing. Like emo and punk like never die.
It never died, man.
It doesn't die.
It stood around.
Dude, it has a resurgence, you know, every decade, like at least once a decade, like it has a resurgence somehow, somewhere. You know, from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, like it always comes back somehow.
Midwest emo revival. Now there's the, I guess, emo trap. It's basically just emo music with like 808s in it. So I consider it emo music. Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, it always comes back. It never dies.
Never dies.
People are always sad.
People are always sad. I love that. I love that quote. People are always sad. Oh no, 2020. Let's talk about Euphonium more, because you've talked about Euphonium a lot throughout the episode already. Go ahead and give us like the deep dive into Euphonium. Like, what is the core mission for Euphonium, and also like how did it originate?
Basically, how I met Tech was through the Business Casual Discord server, and then we started talking. And then it was like, yo, we both were like, I'd say, yo, we should make this, we should do this label thing. I was like, yeah, we should. Pretty cool idea. And it actually was pretty good, because the breakcore scene, there aren't a lot of labels, and a lot of like unknown talent is being shadowed by greater acts like Lapbox and those type of people.
Okay.
And in general, the furry community, like I'm not really a furry or anything, but like I'm affiliated with them.
Right.
I wanted people to know that like the views that community have, and like the stereotypical views of what a person who thinks a furry is not really that true. They're just people who just like cosplay and like animals. It's pretty much it. Yeah, and they make like rave music. That's essentially what it is. Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, and also I wanted to shine. I wanted to give a new light to more breakcore music, rave music, and post-nightcore too, because there's a recent genre resurgence of hyperpop. Basically, 2 different forms of hyperpop. There's glitchcore, which is 100 gex and all that stuff, and there's post-nightcore, which is basically taking popular 2010s acapellas and just like pitching the hell out of it and just
Okay.
like yeah, it's like extremely high music. And there's a good song that I'd recommend to you. It's by an artist called Cucumber Horse. It's called it's literally just called Post Malone Nightcore. You gotta it's like Post Malone Post Nightcore or something. Yeah, and what he did was crazy. He pitched it up so much. It's insane. And yeah,
I love that. I love
yeah.
it. Just doing anything with the sound. But that's cool though. It's cool because
Yeah.
like you know you definitely know what you're talking about and you're really deep. It sounds like into a lot of the internet subcultures and everything. So it's cool for you to put together the label Euphonium to be able to both encourage and also shine a light on like these different subcultures of the internet and the music associated with them
Yeah.
as well. You know, it's fun to
Yeah.
put other people on. You know, it's fun to give other people a platform in whatever we can. For you, it's the label. For me, it's the podcast. You know, like it's really
Yeah.
cool. You know, we get to do what we do as musicians, and then we also get to help other people with these other projects.
Help
like,
other people.
yeah, you know, and that's it makes it so much more fulfilling. It's not just us succeeding. You know, we're all succeeding together in our communities and everything. That is super cool. Back to your music, you put out so many projects already this year and previous years as
yeah.
well. You're working on a project right now. Right now, you're super
Yeah.
prolific, always making sounds and music. I guess maybe because it's related to your emotions. So humans, you know, always have different emotions. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
but how are you able to put out so much music like that? What is the reason behind it?
I guess during high school, it's because I had a lot of free time. So basically, I would just, of course, now that time is getting limited because I'm college, and I actually have to like stop procrastinating. I got to do my work, and I have to start studying and all that stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I actually haven't been able to make a lot of music recently because of college. I haven't touched my computer in easily like 3 weeks, 2 weeks, because yeah, it's crazy. But I'm pretty sure I'll find some time once everything cools down, and then I'll just like go all out, make beats like 1 hour, 2 hour, 1 hour, 2 hours.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think you're gonna have to is what's gonna happen, man. Like anytime us producers are away from the studio for long enough, it's like you start like shaking,
like-
your heart starts
Yeah.
beating. It's like I gotta get back to the studio, gotta get back. You know,
It's like cravings. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta.
you have to,
yeah.
man. You have to, or you're just gonna explode. Do you ever experience creative block?
Oh god, yeah. Oh my god, it happens more often than you think. Yeah. It's like I try not to get it by sometimes taking breaks, but that never works out. Like, man, I can't take a break. my best advice for that actually is like forcing yourself. You know, I know it sounds wrong, but you have to force yourself sometimes. Like, but a good way to stop creative block, a writer's block, is by joining these Discord servers that have producer challenges. Make
Okay.
a beat in 30 minutes.
Right.
Make a song in 1 hour. Use this sample challenge. That's how I chuck things out, even if it sounds good or bad. You know, even if it's bad to me, like I gotta do it. It's 1 hour. I have to do it. So yeah,
That's so interesting. So just keep
a
creating,
good
then,
way.
basically,
just keep creating, and yeah.
and push through it. That's super cool, though. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not going to say it's not true. I mean, obviously it works for you. I'm sure it works for other people as well. But yeah, it's true. You know, you kind of stay on the grind. You keep doing what you do and you make breakthroughs eventually. I think even like for like music marketing and, you know, success in music is the same way. You know, you just never stop. You just keep making and putting
Yeah,
music
true.
out, you know, and eventually something pans out. That's super cool. And I mean, like, in talking that same vein about like never stopping with music, like you yourself will know, like you have so many ways to express yourself. You know, you play guitar, you do
Yeah.
production, you can chop samples, like you have so many ways to express yourself. Is there any other it could be musically or it could be other hobbies or stuff? Is there something else you want to get into to express yourself with? Whether it could be skateboarding, it could be architecture, could be a different instrument you want to pick up, but is there any other like avenues you want to get into to express yourself with?
Do you want to pick up a banjo? I know it sounds very random, but I want to pick up a banjo.
Folk music. Let's go.
Folk music, yeah. I want to pick up a banjo. I like the tone of it. It sounds cool. And also, I want to. There's a synthesizer called the. Oh, 1 second. My dad's also here.
Go ahead.
All right, yeah. He's like, why are you on there? Why are you talking for like a long time?
Doing a podcast. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, but you have to pick up a banjo and then.
Oh yeah, there's a synthesizer called the TB-303.
Right.
Which is basically it was made by Roland, and many artists like Daft Punk used it to make. It's most notably used in a song called "Da Funk" by Daft Punk, and it's got this really cool presets that you can mess around with. Of course, getting one is like $3,000, so I'm not doing that. But
but someday
I'm probably gonna get a clone like the TD3, which is basically a clone of the yeah. So I want to get into synthesis. I guess in a budget way, a budget synthesis. There's also some more synthesizers by Korg called the Korg Volca sampler. It's just basically like granular synthesis. You take a sample and you like stretch it out. What granular synthesis is basically they take a sample and then you stretch it out. You have to stretch it out like to like its maximum, like a tiny, let's say, chord or something.
Right.
There's tiny frequencies in between that sample. And what it does, it creates like harmonic values within those frequencies. It's really cool. It's a really cool thing. Yeah.
Oh man, that's super cool.
That's something I want to get into too. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. Well, I love you mentioned banjos as well, because I feel like there's so many instruments that used to be commonplace that kind of fell off nowadays, but there's still a lot of like artistic merit to them. And banjo's one. I think harmonica could be another one. The saxophone. The saxophone has had a huge increase in respect, and adoration from people as well. So that is awesome. Is there anything that you want to do with your music that you haven't done yet?
I'd say I think I should market my music better, to be honest. That's something I have to work on. Yeah. It's just, man, marketing is so expensive, It's so much money you gotta put into it. Yeah.
It takes a lot of effort as well, man. You gotta put a lot of time and energy into doing it, and staying consistent is another hard one, especially when you already have university in your plate and music creation. Marketing's, another part of your time you have to spend, every single day working on. So
true, yeah, true.
No, I absolutely understand that. Right, and I guess especially with like the label, it might be something you have to get into more as well with like the label eventually also. Anyway, I love everything we talked about, man. It's an incredible conversation. I loved hearing you geek out about like the specifics of music. That was super cool. The inspirations, I feel you on the inspirations. I wanted you to leave a message to the you of 1 year in the future, if you don't mind. What would you say to the you of 1 year in the future?
Just keep on doing the grind, man. Don't give up. That's my message. Yep.
All right, fantastic. I love it. Now, I asked my audience if they had any questions for you. There was one question, came from our mutual friend, the person who connected us, Azra. Azra wanted to ask, he said, what made you want to experiment with music, and how did you get into music in the first place? What made you want to experiment with music, and how did you get into music in the first place?
Oh, you're right. So, well, once again, I'd say my origins was lo-fi. I'm trying to think of that one beat tape that brought me into it. I think it was by... I don't know. I always confuse it. I don't know if it's Ginseng or Sagna, but I'm pretty sure it's Ginseng. You know that one... You know the one with the bossa nova sound that goes like da 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 da, and there's like an anime thing with rain or something.
Okay, yes, right.
That AMV, that's the one that brought me into music, I believe. Yeah. And that whole beat tape was like, man, this is cool. And then what I actually started off with was LMMS, which is a free Linux DAW software.
Okay.
And I used to make beats on that originally, but then my dad got me a computer which had FL Studio on it, so I started using FL Studio because why did I use
And the computer just randomly had FL Studio on it?
Some computers have FL Studio installed onto it. Yeah, I was actually really lucky.
You are super lucky. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad it did, because that kind of led to where we are now with you making some incredible music. So.
Yeah, I would have never bought FL Studio. That's like $200.
Right.
So much money. Yeah.
All right, man. Fantastic, dude. Thank you so much for coming on today. As always with the guests, we have the final speed round. I'm gonna ask a very quick question, give a very quick response. Are you ready for it?
Of course.
All right, man. Let's jump into it. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Favorite color?
Blue.
Favorite food?
Rice and curry. I like rice curry.
Favorite day of the week?
Friday.
Favorite movie?
Oh wait, I gotta think about that one for a minute. Movie. I want to say Nemo, but I'm pretty sure I like more Wall-E.
Wall-E, okay. Favorite song at the moment?
drink on a blade apple.
What's your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure. I guess it's playing the guitar. I love playing the guitar a lot, so yeah.
What countries do you want to visit?
Japan for sure. Korea.
Yep.
I do want to visit Georgia because the language is a very interesting language because they've got it's like some words are basically impossible for other people to pronounce. I just want to see how that works out, you know.
That sounds intriguing.
Just interested.
Mm-hmm. What languages do you speak?
I speak English, pretty much English, and I speak a little bit of my native tongue, which is Sinhalese, and yeah.
All right, and name one person, alive or dead, that you want to have a conversation with.
Mike Kinsella from American football.
Okay.
That man, I need it. Yeah.
And how do you want people to think of you? Last question.
I mean, think what you want, you know. I'm just a guy. I'm just a dude.
All right, man. Oh, this was incredible. Assonance, thank you again
right.
so much for coming on the podcast, dude. I love the conversation. Thank you for everything you shared with the audience. That was so much fun. I loved hearing everything we talked about because I relate with you a lot on your influences and inspiration and everything. Is there any last words you want to say to the audience listening?
Stay safe during the pandemic and wear your mask.
There we go. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to the episode today. Please check out his music. It's incredible. He goes all over the place. If you don't like this song, I promise you're going to love his other songs. There's so much to explore and discover there. Take a note from his book, Never Give Up. Keep exploring. Keep expressing yourself. And make time to do the stuff that you want to do. I will see you guys in the next episode. Take care and have a good night.
Bye-bye.